41 weeks ago, a crowd had gathered on the roadside at mile 21 on the George Price Highway, watching fire officials work at putting out a fire that had claimed the lives of 16-year-old Shadisha Arnold, 16-year-old Anna Carlos, and 14-year-old Elizabeth McCoy. The girls were being housed at the Community Rehabilitation Department and were reportedly confined to a room after running away the day before. It is an incident that left many members of the public outraged, as the circumstances had indicated that the girls were on timeout and locked in a room. Government officials had called a press conference 2 days later, assuring the public that a thorough investigation would be conducted and led by former Director of Family Court, Margaret Nicholas. Love News learnt last week that the investigation has concluded and that it might not render good optics for the institution. Today, in an interview with the Chief Executive Officer for the Ministry of Human Development, Judith Alpuche, we asked for an update on the findings of the investigation. According to Alpuche, while they had committed to sharing the report with the public, they have been advised against it.
There was two parallel processes. We had our own internal process in terms of Ms. Margaret Nicholas and Florence Dillett doing as professionals, as really experts in the area, looking at what happened from that perspective for our purposes, for our internal purposes, and also from a disciplinary perspective, if that was useful. But there's also the legal process. And so the Chief Justice, in his capacity as Supreme Coroner, ordered that a coroner's inquest be done. So that's the criminal aspect, or I should say the legal aspect of it. So our report was more for administrative purposes, for us to look at the institution and where the breakdowns occurred, etc., so that we could take corrective actions. We had promised to share that report, and I would have loved to, but one of the pieces of strong advice that we got from the Solicitor General's chambers was that, you know, if we go out there with this report, that it could be prejudicial to any kind of disciplinary action that would be taken, you know. So we've held off for that purpose. But in terms of what the results of the report, the recommendations coming from the report was very validating to us, because it really, there was a lot of fit between our plans and what the recommendations said. And so we've been, you know, we incorporated some more of the recommendations because there were some very excellent points to strengthen our own system, and we've taken those on board.
Alpuche went on to explain that a coroner's inquest was ordered by the Chief Justice, Kenneth Benjamin, to pursue the matter criminally.
Coroner's inquest that is just being completed, and we're awaiting the results of that to see if anybody will be held criminally liable. From our perspective, from the ministry's perspective, we took the disciplinary action that was under our control to take. In terms of the people who were not, we fired people who were directly involved in the incident. There are some people who come under the purview of the Public Service Commission, so that is their purview, that is not ours. So yeah, and we're really waiting to see what the coroner's inquest will yield. We've fully cooperated with that. As a matter of fact, I think that from the ministry's perspective, it's welcomed, because we do want, from the beginning, we've said we want people to look objectively at this whole situation, and that's exactly what the coroner's inquest is set up to do.
Initial investigations into the fire had revealed that the fire began when one of the victims lit a pillow on fire, apparently. There were several factors that contributed to the death of the three young ladies, including problems locating the key to the room where they were locked up, and also the absence of a proper search of their person in which the lighter used to start the fire would have been found. In December 2015, when the fire occurred at the Youth Hostel on the George Price Highway, there was a transition phase ongoing where the young girls would have been moved into a new concrete structure. There was also a revamping of the educational programs for the young persons living there. But the 3 young ladies who perished in the fire were caught up at the tail end of an old system. CEO Judith Alpuche spoke to the media on the changes and improvements coming forth since the incident.
We are working on those changes indeed. We have actually, you know, I keep saying with the hostel fire, it happened at a point of transition. So what the plans that we have implemented are things that we had already in the pipeline, even insofar as the structures were concerned. I mean, these girls were unfortunately in a temporary structure because the other structure had burned down, and it was literally days before the new building for girls was open and completed and open. So the girls have been moved over into that permanent cement structure. We have been pushing forward with our programming, lots of training for our staff.